Hello, welcome to Beat Burnout. My name is Taniya Hussein. I'm a stress management and trauma recovery coach. And today I am so pleased we have Sue Rumack all the way from Toronto, Canada, joining us. She is an Adler trained coach. From entrepreneur to corporate to professionally trained, as I said, Adlerian life coach. Coach Sue specializes in teaching about overwhelm strategies and 21st century self-care toolboxes to therapists so they seamlessly manage exposure to career-killing secondhand trauma absorbed through client contact. Coach Sue's successful management of various burnout zones in her own careers and personal life provided unique insights from which she developed self-care strategies based on logic, common sense, and quantum physiology that resonate with both therapists and civilians. She is the founder of Ozone's Ultimate Overwhelm Self-Care Workshops and CourageousPath.com. Support programs for immobilized by their environments. She's also the author of 4 spiritual genre books available on Amazon.com. The most common comment from those working with Coach Sue is that she is magic. And I am so pleased that she is joining us. Thank you, Sue.
Tanya, I can't tell you how excited I am to be part of this summit. And the reason that I'm so excited is because in my journey in working with therapists, hands-on and heads-on therapists, I've discovered that they are so at risk of absorbing the secondhand stress of their clients, and it's so invisible. And it does actually impact the length of their career and the quality of their life. So I kudos to you for it. Thank you for creating this summit so they can hear from all kinds of people that are involved in this.
And I think you and I have both experienced burnout in our own lives, and this runs so deep within me, because when you experience burnout, and I've done it quite a few times, and the few times before, I don't think I even realized I was burnt out. And this time last year, I was in a very different place. I was in a very dark place. And like you actually said, and that's why I've had this energy to do this interview series and to do this summit and to bring experts like you who not just have had that personal but also that professional experience, because like you actually said, it affects us on so many different levels. And I actually wanted to ask you, I've mentioned it a little bit within talking to you in the bio about telling everybody, what you've done. But can you just tell me about your journey and how you've got to be doing what you're doing now? Because you don't look it, but you are amazing. You're 70 years old. You've had a very long journey, and you've still got a lot of energy. Can you tell us how you're doing what you're doing now?
Honestly, I'm not sure how I've got this energy. But the truth of it is that over the course of a lifetime, we experience a journey that is spiky. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up again, it goes down again. And what happens is that on the downside, we're challenged to re-examine our lives. And we can call that burnout, we can call that overwhelm, we can call it anxiety or stress. We can call that a timeout, when we just need to gather our strengths, see our best abilities, and then move up the hill again. Knowing, of course, that we will always reach a pinnacle, always come to the top. There will be a period of time when we stay there. We get to integrate everything that we've learned. The next time we go down, we'll go down in a different way. We may not go down as far, but we go down because we're ready to make the leap again. We can't leap from height to height. We have to go into a time of chaos so that we can redefine ourselves before we're ready to make the height, that leap again, and integrate it. So in my life, when I was 19 years old, my mother was killed by a drunk driver. And I became mother to a half-grown family and my dad as we all began to heal. I held it all together. I pulled from my inner resources, and for 1 year. At the end of that year, I broke. Because I was absorbing secondhand stress, I was absorbing the emotions of my entire family. And in taking the time out for that break, the break was so necessary. I discovered more about myself. And I did that leap, the first leap. The next time I broke was probably when I was around 27. My husband had been ill for, at that time, he'd already been ill for, I guess, 5 years. And it had impacted our lives and our children's lives. I've been carrying all of his stress, all of my stress, all of our clients' stress. And again, I broke. I went down for however long it took me. And then I gathered my resources once again and did the leap again. And there have been more periods like that. I'd say every 10 years, there's some kind of a blip that drops me into a trough. But what's most important about that, I don't want to go on and on because that'll take your whole summit time. What was most important about that was in the first dip, when my mom died, I recognized that I was reading other people's energy that was not mine. And it was being absorbed into my body. And I didn't quite know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to block it. So in that period of time, 19 to 20 years old, I discovered that I had an ability from a very young child to read other people's energy and to make myself invisible to that energy or to make myself available to that energy. So I began to play around with how do I make myself invisible when I don't want somebody's energy? And how do I make myself visible when there's something I can do to help them? I've been a helper all my life. What can I say? So as each of these overwhelm burnouts, whatever you want to call them, occurred, what ended up happening was I began to refine those tools more and more. So I began to understand how I could manipulate the energy that I sent out to either calm or, I guess, charge up other people, how to nudge them into doing something that I needed them to do or wanted them to do, how to block myself, how to filter their need, but block their damaging energies. So I began to play around with the signature energy that each person radiates, and we all do. We're cell phone towers. I think that's probably enough for now. That's part of my journey.
It sounds really fascinating, and I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more. Just listening to you the very first time Sue and I connected, I was just like, I was enthralled because I know a little bit about energies and how it affects me, but I've never really explored it in as much depth, which you haven't even gone into, but the little bit that you do, it fascinates me. It just seems to be going a little bit more deeper than most people go into. And I wanted to, I don't ever assuming that everybody knows who Adler is, because some people do and some people don't. Could you tell me about the work of Adler?
I'll just make it really short.
Yeah.
Adler and Freud and Maslow were all competitive psychologists doing psychological research back in the 1930s. As we all know, Maslow came up with his brilliant model for how people live in the world. Freud came up with his beautiful model for how we interact and where our deepest issues might lie. Adler, on the other hand, created a process, a psychological study process, where therapists would learn different listening skills and different questioning skills to elicit answers and information from their clients instead of judging their clients. So Adler created an Adlerian psychology. He created his own school of psychology. And you can check him out. It's Alfred Adler. There's so much information on him. What happened in the 90s, I guess it was, coaching schools, coaching as not as a therapy, but as a process, a guided process to help people where therapy perhaps couldn't, or where people didn't need to go for therapy. Adlerian coaching, which is what I'm trained in. It's a 2-year study program, and actually now it's at the University of Toronto. It's listed as a master's degree when you complete it in the category of education. So it's a 2-year program, and what it taught me was the questioning skills and the listening skills. But it also taught me that how coaching is different from therapy. Coaching on its own, the purpose of coaching is that the coach becomes a facilitator to helping the client to discover solutions to specific issues that are plaguing them at that particular time. So where a client will go to a therapist to find the deeper meaning behind their issues, to a coach to clarify an issue, one only, and then to devise a solution. And then with the coach, they will walk through the solution creating process until the process is completed. And that process can take anywhere from 2 or 3 sessions up to 6 months to a year. It depends on how complicated. I love working side by side with the client's therapist. They take the therapy piece to the therapist, and we work on the solutions piece. And the two of them marry so beautifully. The client really does benefit from having an integrated coach plus therapist situation. And sometimes having a coach and therapist who are different people is 2 different viewpoints. Sometimes having a coach and therapist who is the same person might be a more integrated process for somebody who needs to feel very safe within the coaching therapy relationship.
Wow, I could learn so much from you. I just feel like I learned so much, even though I've been doing this for 30 years. Just the marrying of ideas and applying them just it's just, I can't tell you, it's enthralling. I can't even think of the words. It's just, I'm on an energetic level, I'm just enthralled. No wonder your clients call you magic. This just feels just a totally different level. But I wanted to ask you, you've talked about secondhand trauma.
Yes.
And what is secondhand trauma in your experience?
Secondhand trauma is what any helping person absorbs as an energetic vibration broadcast by the person they're doing their best to help. For example, a mother who's helping her child to do their homework, and the child is getting themselves all in a nasty, crazy, insane spin and basically pushing the mother out of their energetic space. The mother is doing her best. The mother feels that pushback. She feels it as a slap. She feels it in her gut. She feels it in her heart. Her head starts to buzz. What she's actually feeling is not her own frustration at the child. She's feeling that child's frustration having been absorbed like a hit right inside her cells. That's what secondary trauma is. A paramedic who is trained to work with people in extreme physical trauma is going to be hit by their fear, their pain. Now, they've already put up really strong walls. Ever, there is some that seeps through and they take home with them. That's secondary trauma. The therapist, the same thing. Client after client who comes in over the course of one day, it's like energy being thrown at a wall. Some of it's going to stick. So the mud sticks and more mud sticks and more mud sticks and more mud sticks. And after a time, it's as if that therapist now has a mud wall around them. Their own healing energy can't get out to help this person, and other people's energy can't get in to help the therapist. So the therapist gets stuck inside themselves.
And I wish I had been trained in that when I was getting trained as a social worker. I remember we trained in understanding burnout, but we were never told how our work can affect us back when I was doing it in the late 80s, 90s.
In the 80s and 90s, nobody was even exploring this. As a matter of fact, secondary trauma stress wasn't actually explored until the 1990s.
Wow.
By people psychologists by the name of Figley is one, Maslach is another, who's a third. I'll get the names for you.
Maslach. Yeah, Maslach I do know of.
Christine Maslach.
And I just wanted to know, is secondhand trauma different from vicarious trauma? Different speakers like Peggy Oliveira, she talks about it. Evans talks about it. Is secondhand trauma different from vicarious trauma in your experience?
Originally, when the research was done on this, they believed that vicarious trauma and secondary trauma were the same. Okay. It turns out that they are not. So if you wouldn't mind, my old brain would like to read you.
I'd love to.
Read you the definitions on the internet, okay? So bear with me, I need to change glasses. The old eyes don't see exactly the way they used to. So now you get my serious face. Okay, so let's start with vicarious trauma, okay? Vicarious trauma was originally coined by Perlman and Sackvinson, I can't even say it, in 1995. And vicarious trauma describes the profound shift in worldview that occurs in helping professionals, okay, when they work with individuals who have experienced trauma. So vicarious trauma means that your worldview as a therapist is now changed. You see the world in different shades of gray. Perhaps you have become more cynical. Perhaps you've become more defensive. So your worldview is shifting vicariously through other people's eyesight, how they intake the world. So if you deal mostly with, say, rape victims, you're going to see the world as a very dangerous place. If you see the world as through the eyes of a victim of narcissist, you're going to see that world that everybody is a potential abuser and controller. So as therapists, we become the vicarious, we live vicariously through those experiences. Whereas secondary trauma, stress, and that was developed by Beth Stam and Charles Figley in the early 1990s. Oops, come back here. Come back. Oh, there you go. Oh, come back. Anyway, I can tell you without my computer. It will come back. I can tell you about it. Secondary stress is actually an energetic vibration that radiates from the client or the person who has originally experienced the trauma. Okay. And that vibration is now entering your safety zone, your comfort zone, because vibration goes through zones, and it's actually impacting your body. The same way that I explained the mother feeling the frustration of the child, she's getting just as angry and upset as the child, but those aren't her feelings, those are the child's. So secondary trauma stress means that the helping individual is actually absorbing that. The energy that the person is feeling as they're recounting the issue, the trauma. And you are feeling what they actually physically, emotionally, and spiritually felt as they went through the trauma. That's why it's called secondary.
And I'm just thinking, so many social workers and healthcare professionals have joined us, so many teachers, and so many volunteers of non-government organizations, charities, who have to deal with people that have gone through a lot of adversity, are probably listening to you, Sue, and saying, oh my God, I have to deal with adversity and trauma and tragedy and chaos every single day, or 5 days a week, or 6 days a week. And some people that work for charities on a voluntary basis, it's their life, it's their mission, it's their massive, it drives them, and they don't work a 9 to 5, some of these people. And they're probably listening to you thinking, my God, no wonder I've got irritable bowel syndrome, or myself, I suffer from high blood pressure, because you must then absorb it on a very, like you said, there's different zones. So some of us absorb it spiritually, some of us absorb it physiologically and somatically, and obviously all of these things are very interrelated anyway. And I just wanted to ask you, what is quantum physiology? Is that something that happens because you absorb it on a very physiological level? Could you explain what is quantum physiology?
I love that you asked that question. I love answering this question simply because quantum physiology talks to quantum energy. Quantum energy is the newest, biggest scientific breakthrough of our century, truly. And what they have discovered is that the way the amygdala, now we're going to talk about brain science, if that's okay with everybody.
Sure, please.
Fight or flight, the fight or flight syndrome, fight, flight, freeze, that's all held in the response center, in the center of the brain, primitive limbic system. All of your therapists know about it. It's called the amygdala. Okay? And the amygdala is connected to an electrical barrier that is outside every human body. Every human person has an electrical barrier about 24 inches, about arm's length, about that much, outside your body. And when somebody walks into your barrier or walks up near your barrier, you begin to get very uncomfortable. So, for example, I've had people in a room and paired up and said one person is to close their eyes, just to stand there. Another person is to take off their shoes and walk on soft feet very quietly. And they are just to walk very slowly, as close to that person as they can get before the person says stop. That's where your electrical fence is. That's as close as anybody can get to you before you begin to feel uncomfortable. we know immediately we have a real electric fence. It's our comfort zone. Give it another name, call it comfort zone. Quantum physiology says that when somebody else physically comes in front of you, you sense them. However, we also sense energy waves in the form of thought. Light is measurable as a light wave. Thought is also measurable as a frequential wave.
Wow.
That's why they stick all those little thingy-doos on people's heads, and they measure what people are thinking, and they can take a look at people's brains to see which areas light up when somebody is thinking. They've also put sensors on this person's brain and sensors on the second person's brain at far distances from each other. They've done it with twins because it's easiest to do with twins. And what they've discovered is that what one twin thinks, the other twin reacts to. Okay? It's not a biological connection, it's a frequency. So if our frequency between is set to a certain megahertz level, for example, and somebody else is thinking a thought that is also set on that same megahertz level, the chances of your sensing zone being able to pick it up is pretty good. Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense. And I think I'm trying to, as you were talking, I was thinking about so many different speakers like Mama Houston talking about how your thoughts affect your feeling. And
I'm going to come back to that.
Yeah, and how the fact that you're proving this with science, because I think a lot of people, when they talk about, myself included, I was just so dismissive, like a year ago, even a year and a half ago, so dismissive of all these things about energies, and I was like, no, that's like 60s hippie stuff, like I'm very dismissive of it. But you were actually talking that there is a scientific like evidence to how these energies affect us, how thought affects us. And I don't know whether I've actually asked you this, but because we've talked about secondhand trauma, we've talked about vicarious trauma. What would be, in your experience, burnout? What would be, in your professional experience, burnout? And is that different from secondhand trauma?
Okay. Secondhand trauma affects compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is the slippery slope that leads people down into burnout. And while you can go into compassion fatigue like this, like an undulating wave, you'll be at the top, sometimes not feeling so bad, and then you'll dip again. Each time you dip a little further and a little further until finally you're spiraling down into a funnel that leads to burnout. Now, compassion fatigue adds to workplace fatigue or workplace anxiety, where you begin to get overwhelmed with the processes, the paperwork, the demands of your managers, demands of your clients. And the burnout piece of it basically says you begin to feel that your career is failing you. That's number one. The second one is you begin to feel that your training is failing you. Then you begin to feel that your confidence is failing you, right? And then you begin to feel that you're failing your clients.
Yeah.
You feel that your anxiety is actually getting the upper hand. Can you see how these little undulating waves begin to spiral down into the burnout syndrome? Okay? Then you begin to feel that you're failing your family. And the last thing is you begin to feel that you're failing yourself. And that's when your identity really becomes compromised. And it becomes very difficult for you to continue without taking a very long break. That's burnout.
That's burnout. And this happens. We do know of social workers, doctors, healthcare professionals, teachers, a lot of these people that are just, they're such givers. They commit suicide.
Yes.
It's not just suicidal thoughts and feeling depressed. There are cases, and some of them are well documented cases in the papers, that they commit suicide.
Yes. And this is one of the reasons why I really wanted to focus on working with therapists and other helping professionals, social workers, and etc. And the reason is because the people who are most affected by compassion fatigue are our most gifted and talented and giving people, the helpers, the healers. And they are the ones that overcommit on their time, overcommit in volunteering, overcommit with everybody because they know that they can help them. And it isn't ego. It's more, they feel that if they can save one more person and one more person, one more person, then it's going to make their life worthwhile. So my personal mission in life, I mean, my purpose, I believe, if you want to give it a name like mission and purpose, is really to help people and heal people one person at a time. I realize that being the age that I'm at, I probably won't have a chance to heal everybody. It's not going to happen. But if I can help to bring some relief to the therapists who do go out there and help to heal so many more people, then exponentially, I will have helped to heal all the people that they help to heal. And that means I can leave this earth one day feeling that I've completed my purpose. Because the healers are healing the people who need them. And the people who need them are then helping. Oh, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, I just got a thing that said, I'm seeing something that says join and audio. Should I be rejoining or should I just ignore?
No, I think you should just ignore. I don't know what that happened.
Okay, I just ignored it. I'm back.
Yeah.
I had to click on the
no,
screen.
I can still hear you.
Okay.
Yeah. I could listen to you all day, and I just want to ask you, how can we help ourselves so we don't become burnt out? We protect ourselves on an energetic level. How do we help ourselves so we don't become burnt out?
How can I say this without sounding harsh? Okay, I'm just going to say it. Those of us who are in the helping professions, somehow, even though we're not egotistical about the work that we do have a certain belief in ourselves that we are somehow above the same trauma that affects our clients. Somehow we've managed to protect ourselves from it. Somehow our knowledge in having become the profession that we are has somehow safeguarded us and put us beyond being at risk. We follow absolutely the self-care toolbox that we were given, which is we exercise, we eat right, we don't overindulge in bad things, we meditate, we do yoga, we pray, we go for therapy when we need therapy, and somehow we still end up at the end of the day with aches and pains that our doctors cannot diagnose, with stomach ailments that cannot be helped by medicine, dizziness and nausea first thing in the morning, and we're not pregnant, we might even be male, not wanting to get out of bed in the morning, and feeling like we want to quit our profession. So our current self-care toolbox, while it is the regimen that we've been trained to follow, is failing us. There is another toolbox, and that toolbox really is learning how to work with that energy barrier that I talked about that surrounds you. It's actually DNA encoded, where you can work with it to program it, but you have to do it consciously, to program it to filter a person's need, which is their true need, from their damaging energy. They're grabbing onto you, witness me, see me, fix me energy, because they're like drowning men, and they're out there in the ocean, and if you jump in to save them, you're going to drown along with them. But by programming this exterior barrier, this electrical fence, and that goes back into the physiology, I'm going to come right back to that right now. What you're doing is you're telling your electric fence, let their need through so I can deal with it and help them, and send back a very gentle energetic message that the damaging part of it, that energy, is undeliverable, that my boundary says it's undeliverable, but their need is deliverable. When you do that in the correct process, step by step, and that's what I teach, people are able to calm their client's energy just with a thought, not with a word, but with a thought. And that client will calm themselves. The client can be worked with. The client is actually able to hear your words better than before. So what ends up happening is that the need, that energetic need, triggers the amygdala. The amygdala then sends a message to the body which is a body sensation. You feel their need in your gut. You feel a buzz in your head. You feel a little confused sometimes. You might feel an ache between your shoulders or prickles on your arms, or you know what you feel. And what that does is the amygdala has sent a body sensation saying there is danger at the perimeter. What do you want to do about it? At the same time, the amygdala has now sent an additional message to the hippocampus. The hippocampus immediately floods your body with adrenaline and cortisol. Now you're running on energy, which is fumes, for a period of time. You're running on energy for several hours just from one hit from a client. When you program this energetic barrier using thought energy, what ends up happening is the client calms down, your adrenaline and cortisol levels return to normal very quickly. Or maybe they've never even been stimulated. And then your own body is functioning more healthfully. Because when your adrenaline and cortisol levels spike, it can take 3 to 4 hours after that one interaction before they go back to normal. So your body is running on fight and flight for several hours after one client. What happens if you have to see 5 clients or 3 clients or 7 clients? What happens if you're an occupational therapist who sees people back to back every 20 minutes throughout an entire day? You're seeing 18 to 25 clients a day. What happens to your adrenaline and cortisol? So when adrenaline and cortisol are coursing through our bodies, again, this brings us back to the quantum physiology, what happens is that it triggers different hormonal releases and enzymes that actually go into your body to keep it on high alert. Those triggers end up getting turned on permanently. So you end up in an anxiety state almost 24/7. And you don't understand why you can't turn it off. You've done the yoga, but you can't get into it. You've done the meditation. You can't focus on the flame or your breathing because these thoughts, blah, 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 blah. You've got a busy brain. What happens then? Your body begins to break down. You begin to end up with stomach problems because the enzymes that are supposed to be digesting your food aren't getting to your stomach when you're eating because the adrenaline has cut them off. All of the oxygen in your body is going to your brain, not to your body functions. We're talking physiology. This is quantum physiology. The cells in your body are being affected.
How do we then heal ourselves on an energetic level, Sue?
Step number 1, you need to learn how to program your outer barrier, your electric fence, to admit what you need to allow to admit, the work that you need to do with people, that needs to be admitted, and to filter and block and return everything else that is damaging to you. That's survival. That's self-care. And you cannot continue in a healthy career relationship if you do not have proper energetic self-care, because you will burn out as much as you don't want to. And then you lose your income, you lose your career, you lose your status, you lose your self-identity. You might lose your family, you just don't know. So number 1, you need to get a new toolbox. You have to give yourself permission to let the new toolbox work alongside the old toolbox. I'm not suggesting that people give away their old toolbox. It's a good toolbox. It's just that 21st century people are running on a different energetic level than 20th century people were. We move so much faster. And we're being impacted by all of the cell phone towers and all of the energy that is bouncing in our atmosphere, even though people don't want to think that it's true. It is true. If you drive through your community and you look on the roofs of buildings, there are towers there that are gathering and sending all kinds of energetic signals. And you think that it's not affecting you, do a little bit of research. So number 1, learn how to program your. Number 2, get a new toolbox. That toolbox means you're going to give yourself permission to try new ways of doing things. Be open to new concepts, to look at your own self-identity and ask, is this serving me right now? Which parts of it are the best that I've ever been? And which parts can I renew a little bit, upgrade? We're not going to throw anything away because it's all good. Even the bad parts, there is so much good in the bad that all we have to do is find the good, and then your bad is just totally up level to being fantastic.
And I have learned so much from Sue. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Tanya. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.